Hello and welcome to the Rise Up with Orion podcast. Thank you so much for joining us. And many of you may know this friendly face or friendly voice if you're just listening. Our financial expert. I cornered her into coming back and joining us again. So just as a quick intro, and Laura, sounds like some details have changed, so feel free to add to your bio when I am done. But this is Laura Sexton. She is a wife, a mother of 5 young children after her own journey of paying off $372,247 of non-mortgage debt in 3 years. She became a financial master coach trained by the Dave Ramsey organization. Today, she focuses on coaching clients to stop paying for their past and start saving for the future. Laura, welcome back.
Thank you so much for having me. I got very excited that you offered to have me back, and I'm really excited about what we're going to discuss today.
Yes, this topic, we kind of mentioned it when we were bantering back and forth before I found the record button, but this is something that's really hitting home. I know for myself, as you know, a grocery shopper, I'm one that only goes to the grocery store once a week because I really dislike the grocery store. And I think so much of it is because of the sticker shock.
Yes.
And you mentioned it's Easter this weekend. So we're all trying to buy eggs, maybe, or maybe we're not buying eggs this year with the price of these lovely eggs that we're now paying for.
Well, I know I myself am because I do have 5 children, that means Easter is going to be a lot bigger this year. We just had our fifth. She will not be Easter egg hunting, so I don't have to make anything for her. She will have no idea what's going on. But for everybody else, they all expect the Easter bunny to show up, and we are Costco shopping eggs. And thankfully, if you have a Costco near you, they have made a big effort to make sure that they don't jump up the price of their eggs. So they have been very specific about if you buy the large cartons of eggs, they are keeping them at the same price,
Oh,
even though they're operating at a loss for some of their egg shipments. But they feel like that's worth it to
yeah.
them to keep you coming into the store. And so that's where we're going to be buying our eggs. Don't beat me to the store, please.
Don't tell us where you're going. But yeah, I'm all about the customer experience, right? So there's tip number one that I'm writing down. Costco, run before
Yes.
Sunday. So, Laura, tell me a little bit about your strategy when it comes to, grocery shopping and planning and all of those different things when we're thinking about a budget, which is you are such an expert with budget. Can you explain your approach, and why it works, especially for those of us that are on this call or maybe planning ahead for families?
So like I said, I have a big family. Having to plan ahead is key. There's no way that I can make my life operate if I don't have something planned ahead. So that means I'm planning my money ahead and I'm planning my grocery shopping ahead. I think that it is imperative that you do just a couple of things to make sure that you make the most out of your grocery buying experience. And you don't make the most of it by going overboard. We make the most of it by being intentional. And so it's little things like making sure that you're not grocery shopping hungry. If you are hungry, no matter what it is you're doing, you are going to make a poor decision.
Hmm.
There's data to back this up. If you are hungry, your brain doesn't operate at its optimal potential, and that's when you're going to have things like impulse purchases. That's when you're
Hmm.
going to have, I mean, a number of things possible here, but we don't want to put ourselves in a bad position. So if you eat before you go in, you're more likely to make less impulse purchases. You're more likely to stick to the plan that you have set for yourself. That's the other thing. Just
Hmm.
like budgeting our money, we need to plan ahead. So, grocery shopping, you need a grocery list. And for me, I have a grocery list on my phone that I share with my husband so we can both add and subtract from the list as we're going. So, we only have we only have 20 minutes to make it through the whole grocery store. It's divide and
Hmm.
conquer. You get your stuff
Sure.
off the list, I'll do mine. It's also really smart if you are somebody that has the worst time with impulse purchases, stay away from end caps because they are just there to entice you. don't even look at them. If it's at the end of the aisle, don't look at it. Have a plan, have a grocery shopping list, and then stick to that list.
Yeah.
If you can't stick to it, the best thing to do is to use some of these other options. Walmart has things where you can order all of your groceries online and then pick up. Vons does this. I know Ralph's, the Kroger brand has started doing this as well. Sometimes we're like, but they're not going to give us everything exactly how we would have picked it out. Sometimes that's okay. Sometimes that's okay.
Yeah. Yeah, something that I love that you were talking about impulse buys because I'm not a big impulse person. I'm not a big snacker, so a lot of these things don't appeal to me. But one of the strategies that I have to use in order for impulse buys not to hit is I have to go alone. Because the
Oh,
minute I bring a child with me, or
yes.
even a husband with a chip addiction, the impulse buy has happened. And it's funny because even when I was like, does anyone want to go to the grocery store with me? It is the first thing they say is, can I have an impulse buy? So it's like a joke at our house. Like, oh, yeah, you need the new latest and greatest Prime flavor? Of course you do. Yeah, come on, let's go to the store.
Yeah.
So again, that's something that I have to do because
I
the
think
impulse
it's
buys come from others.
I think it's great to put in there, everybody gets one treat. And
Yeah.
if you say ahead of time, everybody gets one,
Yep.
that can be something that you factor in ahead of time that you know, okay, my grocery budget, it's all of these staple things that I know that I need. And also everybody gets one fun thing. So if you get to the end and somebody's getting a Prime, that's okay. We factored
Yeah.
that in. That's totally fine. And by allowing yourself a treat, you are less likely to want all of the treats because you know you're not, and I say this with the budget as well as with our meal budget, as it were, our grocery list. Having one thing that's for you, having a little fun money, as long as you're being intentional with it,
hmm
there's nothing wrong with putting in something that is specifically for you.
Yeah. Yep. And for me, when I think about the impulse buy, I don't even know how much a Prime is anymore. We'll say it's a $4 thing. Again, a $4 Prime to me is a lot easier to budget than a new pair of the latest and greatest fanciest jeans that my son may need. It's something those
Need,
where, yeah,
yes.
I can crack that open for.
It's funny you said need.
Mm-hmm.
One of the things that I've been working on with a lot of my clients recently is this idea of justified spending and how, especially moms to children, we will
Yeah.
justify anything. I can justify buying you jeans. I can justify spending money on you. And when you are in the store and you're in the middle of making purchases, if you find that you're starting to justify, this isn't on my list, but I could use it for this other thing, or what if I change my meal plan? Or if you don't have a meal plan, you're like, well, I could throw this in. I'm sure my kids would love it. If you start to justify
hmm
it, you don't need it.
I love that. Yep.
And it's something that with my kids, I can justify they need to go to summer camp. No, they don't. They want to go to summer camp. They don't
Yes.
need it.
hmm
So
Yep.
just having to rethink how we talk about the things that we're,
Right.
yeah.
Well, I think it puts us in check a little bit because we do this all the time. Whether it's, talking ourselves out of why we're not going to work out today or
Mhm.
why we're going to stay up for another hour to watch the latest White Lotus episode. It's just one of those where we
Yes.
always are justifying these things. And I think it's really important to put yourself in check, and live right here, right now.
Anytime anybody has ever said, well, I'll just I'll just look at three more posts,
hmm
and then an hour has gone by.
hmm
Wow, those were very long posts that you looked at.
Yeah, absolutely. Oh my gosh, it's so true. And you know what? I think we all make these mistakes. So I love that what you're saying is to, not only make a grocery list, which is what I do almost every Saturday or Sunday. And like I said, I'm a one-time going to the grocery store shopper. Not going hungry. For me, I need to go alone. Maybe it's maybe that's by design. I don't know. But
I'll
again,
take the break.
yeah, exactly. What are some of the other mistakes that you hear from your clients, or maybe even a success story that you've noticed from your financial coaching clients that you have?
Oh goodness. Well, I know for me, a lot of my clients will make a plan based on what they wish that they would spend
Mm,
as opposed to what they actually spend. And that can be, it can be very difficult because, or if you're married, sometimes one partner thinks that, oh, it should be this number, but they're
hmm.
not doing the actual day-to-day shopping.
Right.
So it becomes very difficult. So in that situation, if I'm having a conversation with a couple about what they're going to budget for food for next month, I will oftentimes get them to where one of them's going, well, this is about how much we spend. And the other one's like, well, it should be way less than that. And both of those instances are incorrect because what we end up doing, I have one that's a wisher and one that's a reducer. And it almost is always that way because the one that thinks the price should be lower isn't doing the shopping. The one that has the wishful thinking that's like, oh, I think it's this number, it's always at least $500 more
Hmm.
because they're like, oh, we only spend. So, what I highly recommend doing is pausing before you go to the store, before you make your budget. What is your grocery normally? We have to go back and we have to look at what have you spent on groceries the last 3 months.
Hmm.
And for some of us, that sounds really tedious and difficult. But if you do online banking, there's a search feature
Hmm.
in your online banking, and you
Yep.
can very easily click in and type in grocery or type in the name of the store that you normally buy your groceries in, and it will pull up your transactions for the last 3 months. You can see how much you've actually spent. If you go in wishing a certain number is the correct amount to spend, you are very likely to blow that budget.
Hmm.
And groceries are one of food specifically is one of the easiest places for us to blow our budget. When somebody blows the budget, oftentimes they'll go, all right, well, I've ruined it for this month. I'll try again next month. And it's an all or nothing way of thinking. So we want to get realistic and we want to look at the facts. Facts are our friends. Our feelings, not so much. Feelings help us wish, and they're great for occasional motivation, but they're also great for demotivation. So we want
Hmm.
to check in with what is the fact? What have I actually been spending? And if it's not lining up with what you want to be spending,
Hmm.
let's look at that. Let's adjust. Let's figure it out because your checkbook is one of the leading indicators of what you actually value. And so if your numbers are not lining up with what you say you value, we just need to make an adjustment.
Right. Right. And to not beat yourself up over it. And I know for me, I know exactly what my weekly, sticker shock, if you will, when I'm checking out is. And if it's under that, I'm like,
Yes.
yippee. And again, I'm not going to go buy the extra prime just because I'm saving, $20 this week. But again, it's, there's a celebration that happens too,
Yes.
when you're under. And maybe that's
I think
intentional.
it's like that with anything, but also if you are sticking to a very strict budget,
Mhm.
if it's the end of the month and you only have a little bit left, whatever the case may be, if you're saying, okay, this is my budget and I have to stick with it, you have to track it while you're in the store.
Yep.
It can't be one of those things where you get to the end and you're biting your nails and you're like, do I have enough?
Mm.
That's that makes me uncomfortable just thinking
Yeah.
about it. I'm like, oh, I don't want that for you. I don't want that for the person in the checkout line that's having to bring you up.
Hmm.
So pay attention to what you're spending. My mom would always do tally marks on her actual list. If that's too much for you, you can do it there are apps that you can track. Um, the name of which is escaping me completely right now, but that's fine. If I think of it, I'll let you know. But these are, I mean, even just having it in your calculator
Yep.
on your phone, you can do that. So paying attention because I don't want you to get to the point where you're like, well, I spent everything, I didn't get everything on my list. Get the important things first and then go from there.
Yeah. What is your suggestion when we're thinking about our budget? How can we start thinking about creating a budget for food specifically? What is your advice on this and to avoid any pitfalls that may happen?
Yes, this can be very difficult because we are wishful thinkers sometimes.
Hmm.
So going back to the idea of printing out what you have spent before and looking at the types of things that you've been purchasing. If you have been spending a lot of times in those middle aisles, that's where they're going to get you. In the middle aisles, that's where all the processed food is. And the prices of those are actually much more expensive than if you stay on the perimeter and you're getting whole foods, vegetables, your meats, your produce, things like that. So do the outside first and then go in, but also having a cap on how much you spend per person. Now, this may seem a little crazy, but there's an average of $25 to $40 per person in your household. And again, we have to adjust depending on where you live, because I know the listeners are from spread out. Or my family, my little kids, $25 each per week. This is per week, not per month. Like I'm not trying to starve everybody here, but the younger they are, $20 to $25 per person. And looking at that as your potential. Now you may be thinking, no, I only buy Whole Foods and I only shop at the most expensive stores. Like I'm at Erewhon, I'm at, I don't even know some of these fancy places. Maybe time to adjust where you're purchasing your food.
Mm-hmm.
It may be time to look at name brands as opposed, or not letting go of name brands and going with the generic.
Mm-hmm.
Some of these things, especially like at Kirkland's brand at Costco, they're made at the same places that the name brand things are made. Duracell makes Kirkland brand batteries. You're getting the same thing, just with a different label. Now, sometimes we have to test this out with our kids, especially. Name brand Fruit Loops taste different than store brand Fruit Loops, and they will tell you so many times over and over and over again. We ended up using Fruit Loops for art projects because they were like, these are terrible, we're not eating them. We may have to try things out. It may work for some things. It may, and you know what? Some months you're not getting Fruit Loops because I don't have the money for that, because we have other things going on. It could be a birthday month and I'm having to spend money on stuff to make cake. I don't know what it is.
Yeah.
But I don't want to be in a situation where my kids are expecting something and they only get the name brand, because then I'm raising entitled children and I don't want to raise brats. Like I just don't.
Yeah. Yep. When I think something else that I'm thinking about too, and kind of the budgeting and the planning phase, I love how you're saying go back and look at what you're spending. At the same time, if you are a grocery store shopper, you do cook meals at home. Is there waste? This is always something for me where it's like, oh, we were really going to go for those raspberries this week, but now they're molded because we didn't touch them, or the spinach or the avocados, just things where you're like, I have the greatest of intention for these things that I bought. But the reality is now it's waste, because guess what? That's now wasteful food, and it's all now wasteful spending.
Yes.
So again, I love to look back at that too and kind of see what is left.
Well, and I think that it's really smart before you go to the grocery store to shop your pantry. Yep. Look at what's actually in your pantry. Look at what's actually in your refrigerator, freezer. We like having a fend for yourself night with the kids, where it's like, hey, go see whatever we have and we'll make that. And my kids are young enough that for most part, I have to do the cooking still for everybody. But the older two, they can go fend for themselves and they can figure something out. And they'll ask me, they go, Mom, can we make pancakes tonight for dinner? Yes, you can. Feel free. Have a good time. Clean up your mess when you're done. And I think that what we're doing there is not only utilizing what is still in the pantry, we're instilling values in them to make sure that they're able to do for themselves. So to me, a fend for yourself night is a win-win-win, because not only are we shopping the pantry, we're teaching the kids life skills, and I don't have to make dinner for everybody on every level.
Yeah, absolutely. And many of our health coaches, I believe one in particular, they have leftover night. And it's like built into their schedule. Like every Friday night is leftover night. And it's kind of like your fend for yourself, where it's like, oh, you have leftover, mac and cheese or leftover pasta. Let's bring it in with that extra turkey sandwich, and it's, you scrape it from the bottom. But the reality is people typically find what it is that they're looking for.
Well, and I had friends that would have Mennonite dinner. And it was I want to say it was Saturday. It could have been Sunday, because now it's been so long. I can't remember. But every weekend, one of the nights, it was every leftover item came out onto the table
Mm-hmm.
and we were eating that. Whatever was left over, it got reheated, got put on the table. You can have any of this. And then, all of these things, they're at least a couple days old. They didn't get eaten at this dinner. These are the things that we can throw away, and we're not being wasteful because
Right.
we know that they've hit their expiration and they just need to go. So it's a good way to use your resources, things that you've already cooked, and then sit together and have a meal. And that to me is just, again, winning on every level. The winning comes from being thoughtful.
Yep. Yep. And being intentional to plan
Yes.
ahead and be intentional when you're there. And I think that's so smart. Um, what about kind of the shift? Like I said, we're talking about being mindful. We're talking about being present, and
Mhm.
not wasting. What about those people that say, I'm just not good with money. I can't do this. Think it sounds great, pipe dream. It's not for me. How do
Yeah,
you help them shift that in your career?
that's me like 5, 6 years ago. However many years ago it's been now, since 2016. I can't do the math. We're 9 years. It's
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
um I used to think that I would never be good with money because my parents were never good with money and people around me were just, they just spend anything. And it's like anything else. If you get the right people in your corner to help you and to guide you and to teach you, if you want it bad enough, you can make it happen. And
Mm-hmm.
the truth of the matter is, money touches every aspect of our life, whether we like it or not. If you are sitting in a home right now, you've either paid rent or mortgage for that place. If you were wearing clothing, you probably purchased it. Like nothing that you do doesn't touch the money around you. And money is also a number one cause of stress for
Yep.
a lot of people. And stress has physical ramifications on your body.
Mm-hmm.
And so I want to encourage people that if you feel like you haven't been good with money and that you'll never be good with money, find somebody in your life that is good with money and ask them what they do and ask them to
Yeah.
help you. Now, your system may be different than their system, and that's okay. But if you surround yourself with people that are intentional about their money and they are good with their money, they will eventually rub off on you. If you don't have people like that in your life, that's when you want to reach out to somebody like me that's a
Mm-hmm.
financial coach that is going to sit with you and meet you where you're at. I don't make budgets for my clients. I will make their budget with them, right?
Mm-hmm.
But if I were
Yep.
going to make your budget, I'd be making a budget based on what I value and what I want,
Mm-hmm.
not based on what you value and what you want,
Right.
right? I'm not going to let you sit in your wishful thinking. But at the same time, if there's something that's very important to you, we want to make sure that that's actually represented. Because if you make a wishful budget that doesn't take into account those values, you're never going to do it.
Mm-mm.
It
Nope.
needs to be setting you up towards your goals and with your enjoyment in mind. I've never been somebody that wants to take all of the fun out, because if you take all the fun out, why would you do it? Who wants to do
Mm-hmm.
that?
Mm-mm. That's not
But
life.
yes, and but I really love, it's like when people are learning to work out. Not my favorite thing. I've never been somebody that's like, I want to go to the gym. But you know what I do like? I really like doing Pilates on the floor in my living room with my kids doing it next to me.
Yeah.
I enjoy that. I find joy in that. And they're moving, they're getting, they don't do anything correctly. And sometimes they're on top of me. It's like extra
Yes.
weight.
And you're
Perfect.
laughing.
Yes. And everybody's having a good time. You find the way that works for you and then you go forward. And somebody like me that works with, at this point, at hundreds of clients, I can sit and talk with you and figure out what your way of doing things is. And then we do that. And I have some clients that we've done one, two, three things. It's taken us a while to figure out exactly what works. But once you find what works and it clicks,
Mm-hmm.
you're going to be great with money. You just have to decide you want it and then find the way that it works for you.
Yep. And for those of our listeners that are listening to exactly what Laura's saying, she is a coach for a reason. She's doing the exact same things that our Orion health coaches are doing when we're talking about health habits.
Mhm.
Finding what your goal is, how you're going to get there, small baby steps, and making it a routine and making it a habit. I mean, everything that you're saying is exactly like our coaches do with lifestyle change.
Yeah, well, wellness
Hmm.
all kind of fits into this. This is just financial
Absolutely.
wellness. So it's very similar, But I think it has a lot to do with knowing what you want and then going to get it. I think for
Yeah.
all of these pieces, all of the wellness, spiritual wellness, all of it kind of is encompassed in that's what I want. There's my
Hmm.
aspiration. And I'm just going to run it. I'm going to go get it.
Yep, exactly. And you may have already said it, that's kind of maybe it's the looking back part. But again, finding what that goal is for yourself, whether it's a budget, a number, you name it. Is that your suggestion for one step that everyone can take when we're talking about our budgeting and maybe even, throwing on that grocery hat?
Yes. The first thing you have to do is figure out why you want what you want.
Hmm.
Because there's a surface level, I want to get out of debt, right? I love helping people get out of debt. Debt is a physical weight that you wear on your body. I actually measured it out the other day. So side tangent, if I get too far, bring me back. But I pulled out bills from 2012 that I paid. So it was medical bills, um, car payment, credit card payments, and student loan payments, personal loan payments. I had all of the payments, right? I pulled out all of those bills and I weighed them on a scale because I had the physical paper copies of those
Yeah.
bills for 12 months and it was 3 pounds.
Hmm.
There's
Wow.
3 pounds of physical weight on your shoulders every month. And you're like, it's not physical weight. I don't have extra 3 pounds. I liken it to this. If you were to lay down on the ground and put a 3 pound weight on your chest,
Hmm. Absolutely.
after a while, it starts, it's a little difficult to breathe, but after a while, you're able to breathe normally. And you're like,
Hmm.
oh, I'm fine. I'm fine. It's not a weight. I'm fine. You take it off, and all of a sudden, your whole lung expands and you can breathe. That is what happens when you become debt free. So, sorry, sidetracked totally. When you go after your why, I want to be debt free. Why? There's an
Hmm.
ultimate thing behind it. Being debt free for the sake of being debt free, there's no fun in that. There's just not. It doesn't make any sense. But if you want to be debt free because you want to be able to breathe all the way in and out every night, or you want to be debt free because you have children that you want to build for their future, you have a legacy idea, you have charitable giving that is just on your heart that you want to do.
Hmm.
I can't set myself up to give away $100,000 a year in charitable giving if I'm paying $100,000 a year in payments to make
Hmm.
somebody else rich, and all of my interest is going towards my past and my past decision. That's why my tagline is stop paying for your past, start saving for your future. It's also the emotional side of it, right?
Yes.
The emotional weight that you have from
Hmm.
your past decisions that you're paying for. And I want everybody to be forward focused. It's very much the same with any kind of wellness. We want to be forward focused. We want to look at what is in our future. What does future me look like? And your future you deserves better than what you're doing for yourself today.
Yeah.
I firmly believe that.
Well, and when we think about, grocery shopping too, within the food realm, this is
Mhm.
something that we all have to do. It's
Yes.
whether we Grubhub or Uber Eats or whatever it is, or cook at home, it's something that we all have to do to sustain ourselves and our family. So it's one of those where, you kind of have to plan ahead for that. And I think that's where the idea of couponing and being a coupon
Mm.
clipper. Are coupon clippers still around? Is it something that you suggest as we are starting to plan ahead? Because sometimes it's a great idea.
It sounds wonderful. And if you have the time and energy to go hunt down coupons, I
Hmm.
say go for it. However, coupons are not as easily accessible as they once were because companies used to send them out to you. They used to be
Absolutely.
like, hey, it's in the newspaper. And it's just not that anymore. There are some apps like the Ibotta app. If you spend money and um, you scan your receipt, if there is a coupon, they will put money into an account for you, which is
Hmm.
great. I love the idea of being mindful and doing coupons and things like that, but I think it's more important to be flexible with what you're willing to buy while you're in the moment at the store. So the things that are directly in front of your face, those are going to be the most expensive, best money for the store. The store is going to make
Yep.
the most money off of these things. But if you look up or you look down, those things are going to be a little bit cheaper. And so that might be better for you in that moment. That's not to say that couponing is not. I have a cousin that coupons and she makes money every time she goes grocery shopping.
So good. So
So it's
awesome.
out
I
there.
envy these people. I do.
Yes. I mean, it's amazing. But she also has people around her that do this on a daily basis and they go hunting for things and they give her, and so there is a pipeline for it. It is possible. But I think it's more important, what are we willing to spend our brain calories on? And I want to do that.
Yep.
One of the core values of my business is that money can feel easy. And I want it to be easy. And by making it easy, that means we have to simplify. We don't need to do all of the rigmarole. We don't need to, well, I put the money in this account, so I move it over here and I get the points on this card. So then I pay it off. And if I pay it off, I get the point. Like, that's a lot. And we don't have to do that much. If we can make it simple.
Yep.
That doesn't mean money just, okay, she made it simple, so you're going to be a millionaire. Like, no, you still have to do the work. But if we make it simple, it's easier to stick to. And if we're not constantly burning brain calories, our body, our brain is meant to store those calories. It doesn't want to work that hard. So if we can make it simple, it's easier to stick to and it's easier to move along and build with you in the long run.
Well, and it circles back to one of our listeners just said, in terms of meal planning, what is the best way in your mind to meal plan? Is that weekly? How does one do it? How do you get started with a meal plan? Like I said, I have my vision, so I don't want to throw it out there, but what's your suggestion?
I like starting with 3 meals, planning out 3 days. If you can get your breakfast and your lunch to be very similar, our kids, they get 3 options in the morning. They have pancakes, they have oatmeal, they have protein bars. Those are the 3 options. We don't get crazy, we don't get fancy, the protein and the fruit, and then you're done. So breakfast and lunch can be very simple along the way. Plan 3 meals. Start with 3. Anybody can do 3, right? Start with 3 that you have planned out, move to 5. I never go more than 5 personally because I'm going to have a leftover day. I'm going to have a day where I'm just tired. And then I go out to eat 1 day a week. And that has just become the rhythm of our family where we have our family meal day together at a restaurant. So if you can plan 5 meals, you will be set up. One of the things that I do specifically with meal planning for me and my family, I have the kids pick a meal. What would you like to have? Because then I know 1 day a week they're gonna like whatever we have for dinner, and I'm not going to have to be like, oh, if I make this, I'm gonna get yelled at.
Right. One more bite. One more bite. I know, the worst.
And so I want to make it so that it's interactive. So I'm not the only one making the decisions. That sometimes is where I really struggle. If I'm the only one making the decisions for dinner, that's hard.
It is
And
hard.
if you are a single person and you're making dinner for the biggest lie about adulting is that you can do whatever you want whenever you want. Like, you can't. And you have to decide what you want every night for dinner for the rest of your life. So if somebody else can help with that, we're going to reduce decision fatigue. And that's the reason why we meal plan.
Yeah.
We need to reduce the decisions because if you're hungry and you're deciding what you're going to have for dinner tonight, you're going to make the wrong decision. That's going back to what I said earlier. If you are hungry, you're going to make an impulse decision. You're not going to make the smartest decision. So if you plan ahead of time, even if you are meal planning for tomorrow, you're winning. But you had asked this question earlier. I don't think I answered it. When I like to budget money for the month, but I go shopping every Wednesday. Not that Wednesday is the best day to buy based on price. It's just Wednesday's the day that I can go. Yeah. And so Wednesday is the day that we go grocery shopping for the week. And that means I have to have a plan by Tuesday. Sometimes that means I have to start planning on Sunday just because like life gets crazy. And I like having a family business meeting somewhere between Sunday and Tuesday, however it falls best for you, for you pick whatever day you want for you and your family.
Mhm.
But for my family, it has to fall somewhere between Sunday and Tuesday because we have to go grocery shopping on Wednesday. So a family business meeting is what's on the calendar? What does our money look like? What kind of meals do we want to have planned? Because some days are crazy where we have after
Mhm.
school activities and we have all of the things happening. That's a crock pot meal day.
Yep, absolutely.
And,
Sounds so
I'm going to
familiar.
throw something in the morning so I don't have to think about it. And when we get home, it's done. And people don't smile upon crock pots for some reason. Like they're like, oh, they're so
Oh,
old
I
fashioned.
do.
Oh, I do too. I
I
love my
love
crock
it.
pot. But we, as a society, we are a microwave culture where we want it fast and we want it done. And that's why we get into the traps of the DoorDash or the Uber Eats or
Mhm.
some sort of takeout delivery. Anything that you're going to get delivered, it's going to cost more. And it's most likely going to be much worse for you than what you were going to cook at home.
Yep.
I say most likely because sometimes we make the cheesiest mac and cheese, and that may not be the best for us either. But if we know what's going into our food, that's 100 times better. Still, when you Uber Eats or you DoorDash, you are making impulsive decisions. You are getting hit with fees. You're having to tip on top. And I know I have a client who bought $2 pancakes from
Mm.
IHOP to have them delivered in the middle of the night. And it cost her $15 for the $2 pancakes. And I was like, this was not the smartest decision
Mhm.
that you have ever made. Also, not the dumbest decision she had ever made, but that's okay.
Right.
I just think that one of the things that it all goes back to intentionality. We have to be intentional with our food. It may not be fun to make a meal plan, and we may not always stick to it, and that's okay. We want to
Mhm.
make sure that we use whatever food. My husband was actually saying this last night. I was like, "Oh, we have to get our plan for this week," and he goes, "Well, we didn't even stick to it last week." I said, "I know, like things got off the
Mhm.
rails, but I used all of the food. None of the chicken went to waste. None of the hamburger went to waste.
Mhm.
All of the produce got used."
Yep.
So I'm not mad that we didn't stick to the plan. We had to pivot a couple of times because we didn't have this ingredient or this one. The kids ate all of that. So now we have to adjust. That happens.
Yep.
But we were intentional with the food that we had and we used it all. And so even though he's like, we didn't even stick to the plan, we didn't. But we had what we needed
Yep.
and we adjusted. And that's okay. And I'm still going to plan for next week
Absolutely.
and we're going to go grocery shopping. It's going to be okay.
Yep, and I was just going to have you lean into that just a little bit. What happens when you blow it? What happens
Uh
when you
huh.
blow your monthly budget? When I spent $350 at the store this week and not 250, I blew it. How do I
Mm-hmm.
bounce back from that? And it sounds like I'm not the only one. You admitted it, and I'm sure your clients do it all the time. You blow your budget. Now what?
You have to have grace for yourself. I think one of the most important things that you can have on your budget, though, is a miscellaneous column. This is not it's not, well, okay, I'm going to go over on my groceries and I'm going to use the miscellaneous. That's not necessarily what it's for. It's there in case something happens. So, anybody with kids, you've had a child come home on
Hmm.
Tuesday and go, hey, tomorrow I have to have this, art project done. And you're like, I'm sorry, we have to go to the store right now. Like, I don't
Hmm.
have any of this. And that's going to go in the miscellaneous category. Or I didn't even think about the fact that I needed, whatever it is, toilet paper. I needed toilet paper. That goes in the miscellaneous category because I didn't budget it before. Having a buffer
Love it.
will help so much in many different ways. And so, first thing, if you blow the budget, great. We just need to adjust. If we can use the miscellaneous buffer, perfect. If we can't, we have to take out of something else. There's always a give and take. There's always a sacrifice, whether you take it out of your own money that you have budgeted or you put it on a credit card and then you have to pay penalties on top of that.
Hmm.
Either way, it's going to be hard. You just get to
Yeah.
choose which part.
Yep. And
But
it's not an extra stop at Starbucks on the way home.
correct. Correct. I do have a client that just this week she and I met and um, she is a crafter And she went on to a trade show and she was like, Laura, I don't even want to tell you this. And I was like, what? It's like, what happened? She goes, I spent an extra $100 that wasn't in my budget on fabric. And I was like, okay.
Okay.
And the first question is, well, how do you feel about that? Like, let's go through, was this a good decision? Was it about it? She actually felt really good about having bought this fabric for for the purpose that it was. And I was like, okay, so how did you adjust the budget? And without skipping a beat, she goes, okay, so what I did was, and she starts going through and she's like, I took a little bit out of here and I took a little bit out of here and I was able to adjust. I put a little bit in the miscellaneous category. And I was like, and how do you feel about that? She's like, I feel so good because she is finally in a place where she's able to problem solve for herself. And she understands she is 100% in control of her money. Does she make mistakes? Yes. Can she adjust and pivot and do what needs to be done so that her mistakes don't make her a mistake? Yes. Yep. And that's the best. She's never telling me, okay, Laura, like I'm so terrible and I made this mistake. No. She was very specific. I made this choice. I'm happy about the choice I made, and this is how I fixed it. Perfect. 100%. Yeah. I'm so glad you bought this fabric now.
Yeah, absolutely. And how long did it take her to get there? Again, it probably didn't happen overnight. I mean, she's now owning her money.
We have been working together for, I think this is month like 15.
Great. Love it.
Yes. But now I sometimes go into meetings with her specifically. I'm like, you don't need me. But she wants the accountability. Yes. So she's willing to stick with it. She's like, no, because I know what I was like before I had somebody in my corner. And I'm here for it. I'm like, I am here for you. I'm on this journey with you, but also I'm so excited for you.
Yes, I know. So empowered by what they've done for themselves.
Yes.
Well, you're just touching the surface of this. And so this is a fantastic segue. So people can figure out how to get more of you, Laura. So how can they find you? Our listeners, online presence, social media, tell our listeners how they can collect more information from you.
Well, since you're here, I assume that you like podcasts. I have a podcast as well. It's called the Money and Career Mastery Podcast. So you can check it out. We discuss everything about how to go from feeling overwhelmed to feeling in control. And that is both with your money, which is how you spend it, and with your career, which is how you earn it, which both of those are very important. And I want to make sure that you have the most joy in your money as possible. So Money and Career Mastery on all streaming platforms, but also you can interact with me. Let's have conversations over at Instagram. I am at Accelerate Your Legacy. Legacy is one of these things that is so important to me, and I want to help you get to where you want to be. Legacy is more than dollars and cents in a bank account. It is the habits, tools, and mindset that you leave behind. So if you don't like the story that you were coming from and you're ready to be the first link in a new chain, I am here for you and I will champion you along the way. Also, I have all the free resources at my website. Again, accelerateyourlegacy.com. I have tons of free resources. And if I don't have the one thing that you want, reach out to me and I'll make it. I am here for you. Like, I want to give away all of the things. Yes, I charge for coaching, but if I can give you stuff for free, I'm here for it.
Awesome. Free from the budget lady. Fantastic.
Yes.
No one's going to argue with that.
No.
So like I said, we just touched the surface of it. It's a very individual story for everybody. Like I said, my once a week journey in the grocery store is very different than yourself and all of our listeners. So again, just touching the surface to try to figure out what makes sense for each of us. So again, all of our listeners, I recommend collect all the information. And if you need to dive in deeper, Laura is a fantastic resource that you can work with. So I want to say thank you again for the third time joining our podcast over the many years we've known each other. So I'm so excited to have you back. And to all of our listeners for joining us.
Well, thank you so much for having me. This has been a joy. And like I said, I'm so honored that you would have me back. Thank you.
Yes, thank you so much. And to all of our listeners, please join us next month. It is Mental Health Awareness Month. So we're going to be diving in a little bit deeper to a new maybe it's not new to me at least, a new modality called neurofeedback. So join us next month for Mental Health Awareness Month, and I'm excited to share that information with you.